Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cutting straight to it. We've got a very concise, but well, pretty impactful set of source materials here about a pressing global situation. And our mission really is just to pull out the key nuggets of knowledge, understand the facts, but also, how the material itself is framing them.
And I think it's really important we say this right at the top. This topic does touch on politically sensitive areas.
Absolutely.
So just to be clear, our conversation is going to stick strictly to the information in these specific sources you shared. We're aiming for impartiality here, just conveying what the material presents, no endorsements, no outside commentary from us.
Okay, great. So let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
The sources, they kick off by stating something very clearly right up front. Quote, Israel-Iran attacks continue.
Yeah.
And that feels like the foundation, doesn't it? The sort of ongoing context the material gives us right away sets a scene of, well, active engagement.
It really does. And what's striking, I think, is just how direct that statement is. It establishes this active, ongoing dynamic. That's how the material we have puts it.
Right.
It's not framed as something historical. It's presented as, a current state of affairs. It implies the sustained back and forth, maybe a certain momentum, even if the sources don't detail the attacks themselves.
Okay, and this is where, for me at least, it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because right after establishing that ongoing conflict, the sources hit us with a very specific and frankly quite strong demand. Again, I'm quoting. Trump demands unconditional surrender of Iran.
Yeah.
That specificity, that strength, especially appearing right alongside the attacks continue a bit in our material. It's quite noticeable.
It is. And if we try to connect those dots, just using what we have in front of us,
Yeah.
this demand, this unconditional surrender, it surfaces exactly in that context of continuing attacks.
Yeah.
And that phrase itself, unconditional surrender, it just carries enormous weight. Historically, geopolitically, it suggests, well, not just stopping the fighting, but a complete reordering, right? A shift from fighting to absolute capitulation.
The whole capitulation.
Which is quite an extraordinary thing to demand when, according to the same material, hostilities are still ongoing. So the sources, by putting these two pieces together like that, they're painting a picture of an extremely high-stakes situation.
It's almost jarring, isn't it, seeing those two elements placed so closely together in the text. What does that juxtaposition itself tell us, maybe, about the source's perspective?
Exactly. That's a great point. The sources aren't just listing facts in isolation. They seem to be crafting a narrative here where this ongoing, quite kinetic reality exists side by side with this huge political ambition. It's not just a timeline. It's presented as a tension. Starkly. It highlights a situation where, at least from the perspective making the demand, the terms of engagement are being pushed to their absolute limit. It implies a drive not just for resolution, but for a fundamental change in the power dynamic itself.
So what we've really focused on today, just pulling from this source material, is this potent mix. First, the undeniable reality, as presented, of ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran.
The stated reality.
And then, juxtaposed right against it, this really formidable demand for the unconditional surrender of Iran.
Yeah, and that really leads us to a crucial thought, something perhaps for you, the listener, to consider. When information is presented, this concisely ongoing actions paired with these very strong specific demands, what does that specific phrasing like unconditional surrender truly communicate? Particularly about the perceived goals and maybe the path forward, as constructed by the source material itself. How does that shape your understanding of the reported situation purely through this lens?
Definitely a lot to think about there, even from such, well, seemingly brief statements. Thank you for joining us on this quick, but I think quite